The Supreme Court is allowing the Trump administration to move toward ending temporary deportation protections for potentially hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans.
The High Court considered the issue of humanitarian relief called Temporary Protected Status, or TPS, for Venezuelan migrants. 7 Venezuelan nationals who have that status and a group that represents others challenged the move. They argued in part that the decision was motivated by racial and political hostility. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem took action earlier this year to end TPS for more than 300,000 Venezuelans in the U.S. Those protections are scheduled to end next week. So what will the impact be, not just for Venezuelan migrants here in the Houston area, but really for the community at large? Here to talk about it is Robert Painter, managing attorney for the Texas Immigration Law Council, a nonpartisan center that serves as a statewide base to make resources available for immigration legal services. Robert, thanks for taking time for us this afternoon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Let's begin here with the impact this could have, not just for TPS beneficiaries and their families, but for the community and the economy as well.
I think you've got it just right. So there are kind of 2 things that you have to think about when you think about the impact of this order. First, of course, for the families who are affected, it means a significantly higher risk of detention and deportation for those family members who do have TPS, as well as the loss of their employment authorization. So a big economic hit for the family unit separately. But on top of that, the contributions of TPS beneficiaries to Texas in particular are enormous. I have read a number of sources saying that around 60% of all TPS beneficiaries are concentrated in 4 U.S. states, Texas included, and TPS households bring in approximately $1 billion annually in income and pay approximately $110 million, annually in local and state taxes. So the immediate impact on losing that tax base and losing that economic activity will be enormous.
That's incredible context to consider here when we talk about the impact. We know earlier this year, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem moved to end temporary protected status for Venezuelan migrants. She has said that Venezuela no longer supports that 2023 designation for TPS. How do you respond to that?
I think that's debatable. The secretary is pointing generally to country conditions evidence that she says shows an improvement in the economic and political situation in Venezuela. However, my own review of country conditions evidence, including, I would note, the State Department's most recent report, demonstrates that the country is still going through a very difficult economic situation. There's widespread crime and violence in the country, and a significant problem with human rights violations committed by the Venezuelan government, including arbitrary arrests, torture, forced disappearances, and frankly, murder.
Robert, the Supreme Court noted in the second paragraph of this recent order here that it was not weighing whether the administration could revoke work authorizations and other benefits of TPS that were already issued by the Biden administration. What do you make of that? That's right.
So this gets a little bit in the weeds in terms of legal process. But essentially what the Supreme Court is saying is they're not going to weigh in on the government, the federal government, or the secretary's authority to revoke work authorization specifically. By stopping this injunction, they're allowing the lapse of TPS to move forward. So the work authorization and temporary protected status that were supposed to lapse at the beginning of April, they're saying it's fine for that lapse to continue, but we're not going to say yes or no in terms of whether the secretary has the authority to revoke TPS or related employment authorization at this time. So they're essentially kicking the can down the road to make that decision at a later time and letting it play out through the lower courts first.
Last question for you here. What advice do you have for individuals who may be facing the possibility of deportation to Venezuela and really don't know what to do or what options they have right now?
The first thing they should do is try to seek counsel as quickly as possible. A lot of TPS beneficiaries might not have access to some other form of immigration status, but some might, and it's important to understand those options right away and ideally apply for them as soon as possible. For those who don't, it's still wise to seek counsel only to better understand their unique vulnerabilities to deportation and to begin thinking through what they and their families can do to prepare for that if it does come.
Robert Painter, managing attorney for Texas Immigration Law Council, we appreciate your perspective and your time this afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.